Hey, welcome back to the D&D Quilt Along. We're on week 5, our very last week. Our sponsors for this week are Long Armors again. We have A Piece of Quiet Quilts, Modernly Stitched Quilt Studio, Blue Heron Quilting, and Trace Creek Quilting. Each of these Long Armors are offering up a prize of long arm quilting services to one winner each. So 4 people winning. All right, so week 5, our task this week is a big one. We're going to be sewing all those blocks together to have a finished quilt top. Let's dig right in. All right, so this week our task is going to be to sew all of these, and I've already got my first row sewn together. I had to get it off the floor. It kept falling down there, so that was a little bit of an issue for me all week. We've been working through our strip sets and we've been pressing those seams open, and we've done that to reduce bulk. There was no way of nesting every single thing, so that's why we've been pressing our seams open. But now we're going to flip, because we're going to be sewing blocks together, and we do want those seams to nest up, unless you don't want to. Either way is okay. The way the pattern is written, each row we sew is going to be pressed in opposing directions. We're alternating those seams so everything can nest up. Whatever works best for you, that's the kind of the way you go about sewing your blocks together. I've already sewn my very bottom row, and that's kind of the way I like to work. I like to sew bottom and then move myself up slowly. The reason I like to do it that way is because I know where each row is going. It's always going on the row I sewed previously. So it just keeps me straight. And anything that takes the guesswork out in quilting is the way I normally use. So if that doesn't work for you, if you have your own way of sewing your blocks together, do that. Either way, however you get it done is perfectly fine. Just, get it done. So let me just kind of show you how I go about it. I'm going to grab this bottom row. All right, when I take it off the wall like that, I want to hold it exactly the way it was on the wall. I don't want to be twisting and turning. I want it the way it should be. That way there's no confusion. Again, take the guesswork away, and then you won't ever sew the wrong pieces together. I've done that so many times. So these are the little safety nets that I've created to kind of help myself not do that and not have to spend an hour seam ripping, because nobody likes to do that. All right, we're going to take this and we're going to go to our sewing machine. Here we are. All right, we're going to chain piece these, and they're going to go together just like that. So we'll flip, the second one over. Now, if you have cut everything to size, used the correct seam allowance, you won't have to think about these seams that much. They're going to go together really, really naturally. There may be a few that are a little off. That's okay. If they're ever off, I will put them together kind of like that, and then hold the seam as I sew it through. But I sewed my first row together already, and there was only a handful that were actually off. So this is working out pretty well for me. We're going to sew those with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So just like that. And then we'll just keep going down this first row, sewing them together all the same, pairing them up. And you're using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And then I'm just kind of watching this seam, every time. Just make sure that it is landing right. I want them to match up. They should naturally match up if I've done everything with precision so far. It shouldn't be that difficult to do. So let me whip through these. Okay, so we've got them all paired, and now I'm just going to cut these, the little threads that connect them, open them up, and I do want to keep them organized, so I'm going to go one at a time. I'm using these little Havel's sewing snips. These are called Dura snips. This is the only task I use these, and I let them hang like right there. I love these things. I don't have anything else to use them for, but they do this task really, really well. And I don't have to worry about slipping my fingers into scissors or, you know, it's just easy to maneuver with this thing, I think. All right. Got them done. All right. So now that we've sewn them in pairs, we're going to sew them into fours. So same thing, pairing them up just like that, making sure they match up, and they do. Sewing with my 1/4 inch seam allowance. We're just going to go through this row just the same. All right, same thing. Now that we've got them into fours, clip the threads that connect them, and now we have a same stack, keeping organized just like before. And we're going to do this all the way down the row. All right, so now that they're in fours, we're going to put them into eights. When they're off just a tiny little bit, I give them just the gentlest tug. You don't want to do it too much, because this last one, it was off just a hair. I want them to be accurate, and it only matters to a point for me. I mean, only you decide what matters to you. For me, it matters. It matters, but it doesn't matter so much that a tiny smidgen off is going to bother me. If it's ever off really bad, I will, you know, unpick it and redo it. But that's rarely the case. If you're new to quilting, it might be happening more often to you. But I promise, the more that you use these precision techniques, the closer everything is going to get as far as always being accurate. Just keep going. You're going to get there, and it's going to be so much less frustrating. Just keep being mindful of it. All right, so now they're in eights, and we're going to sew our 2 sets of 8 together. Same thing as before. There's so much in quilting that is just constant repetition. I think that's what I like about it and what makes it feel, you know, so much like therapy. This one's off a little bit. So let me just kind of hold it in place. There we go. And as you can see, they're matching up pretty nicely. This one's off a little tiny bit, and this is what I'm talking about. It's off a little bit, but I can live with that tiny little off. I don't see any that are just really bad. Most of them are pretty close. Most of them are actually almost spot on, and then there's a few that are just kind of tiny smidgens. This tiny smidgen, you know, I can live with. You decide what you can live with. Let's go to the pressing. When you come to your pressing mat, if you're having to get up like I am, you want to make sure that you've always got the first block in your row and the last block in your row. You know where those two are. That way I don't come to the pressing mat and accidentally, you know, turn something sideways. All right, and then I'm going to have my last block, I'm going to turn it this way. And like I mentioned before, we are alternating the seams for our blocks per row. So on the first row I pressed all the seams this way. And I just kind of did this like right there. This time I'm pressing them in this direction. So I'm going to maneuver that seam so that it looks like it's pressed down. Grab my iron and press just like that. And I'm going to flip these seams down as they come to me. All right, so now that I have this row done, I like to bring it over here and put it on top of this row right here. So I'm always like, the reason I like working from the bottom to the top is because I'm always putting them from the top. So here's the bottom row, here's the second to bottom row. It just kind of goes like that, all right? So we're gonna flip this row on here. Here's what I was referring to earlier, where we nest these seams up. So we're gonna start with those first 2 blocks. And this seam is going to nest right in to the other seam. And you can feel this slip into place, right? Looks like that. And they just kind of nest together. Now when it comes to getting your seams accurate, I find this to be the easiest way to do it. It's not always possible, like when we did these. You really couldn't have pressed those to one side and had it work out. But on this, you can. So we're gonna put a pin right here. And just so you can see that a little bit better, there's my pin slipped right into that stitch line, holding those 2 seams nested together. And then I will do that all the way down this row. Going to go down the whole length of the row like this, nesting them together. If you're like, oh no, I press all my seams open, keep going with your seams pressed open. Whatever makes this easiest for you and what you like to do better. All right, 2 more pins, 1 more pin. Okay, and then I like to just kind of accordion this row like that. Oh, I got myself. And then we will take it to the sewing machine. All right, and we're here, and we're going to start sewing 1/4 inch seam. I'm going to make sure that I keep the edge of my fabric on the inside of that 1/4 inch line, and then start. And then as I come to these pins, just pull them out. Okay, and just give you a little peek at this, what it's looking like. But I'm going to accordion it again and take it to the press. Right, so here we go. Got my row. Before I start pressing the seam in the direction I want it, I just want to give the whole thing a little set. This is called setting your seams, and what it does is it reduces any kind of tension that went in while I was sewing it. It makes that seam warmed up and ready to do what you want it to do. So we're going to employ the easiest way to press this on this time around, and we're just going to open up the rows just like that. Smooth this down with your hand first. So I'm making sure that my seam is going this way. You could go this way, you could go open, you could do whatever you want. I'm doing mine like this. And then press. The important part here though to me is that I'm smoothing it with my hand first. I've tried to use the iron to smooth it before, and for me, it gets wonky. So I like to use my hand first. All right, so now pick up these 2 rows, and I'd like to just bring them over here. Right? And now I'm ready for the next row. So I'm going to grab my next row on the bottom, and I'm going to go sew this one together. Got this row done, and again, we're pressing this one. The seams are going this way. Iron, and then start pressing. And then I'm going to put this one, you know, kind of lay it out right there when I get it done. And then I'll grab the next one and I'll sew that. I'll continue doing this all the way up. But I like to kind of keep them together in pairs, and 4s, and 8s, all the way up to the top. That's kind of how I'll do it. If I got 2 rows done, I sew those 2 rows together. If I've got 4 rows done, I sew those 4 rows together and then just kind of move up, never letting a single row just kind of sit there. And I'm doing it this way just to kind of keep, again, the guesswork out of it. So, you know, if you've got 2 sewed together, of course they're going to stay together, versus having just 2 single rows hanging out, you know, over here where they could get pushed out of place, or I could have to leave my sewing room and then somebody else come in and mess up what I've got going on, which happens a lot here. So just kind of some things, again, that I employ to keep everything in order, keep everything organized, and keep myself from getting frustrated. Right, so this one is going to go here, just like that. And then I grab this row. Okay, and then sew it together. I'll sew it to this single row. Then I'll sew both these 2 rows to make 4 rows. And I'm going to do that all the way up the quilt top. So not going to make you watch me sew all these. I'm going to show you the quilt top when I have it done. I'm done. I was enjoying it so much. Let me turn the angle. I am so happy with it. It just turned out, it's a little lighter than I expected. Like maybe I used a lot more low volume than my original idea, but I don't even care. I just think it's great. I think it's so great. And I'm really hoping that you are going to love yours as much as I love mine. I'm already coming up with ideas for quilting. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be doodling all over this one. We are done. I can't believe this is over. I actually enjoy the making of the quilt more than I ever enjoy the actual quilt. I don't know if that's just me, but that's something that I am always feeling every time I finish a quilt. Those giveaways. Details for how to enter the giveaway is in your week 5 email. Click the button, get yourself eligible. You have until Thursday at noon to enter the giveaway. And if you're looking for ways to finish up your quilt, next week I'm going to be sending you an email that's going to go into some details, and you'd probably even offer a discount on my Finish It class. I'll put a link right below this video for that class, but it goes into basting, quilting, binding, and multiple ways to do each. And if you stay subscribed to Stashwork Quilt Along email list, you'll get news as soon as we're ready to start Flossie. So we will be continuing our way through the Stashwork quilt alongs, and our next quilt is Flossie. It's the 3rd quilt in the book. I hope you'll join us and be there for that as well. Thanks for participating. Thanks for watching. Thanks for just being here. I will see you next time.